Alright, now I will show you my two identities that I built for the identity contest. Now is a very good moment to do that. I have clips. You know, there was this big contest. Spam was hosting this, where people have built identities for the Trackmania Worlds Tour. And some of these identities are of course now used in those maps. And I also built two identities. I was pretty happy with them. Sadly, they both didn't really come that far. But I want to show them. So, replay editor. Wait, where are they? Ah yeah, this FreeSpin. Exactly, AirWaves and FreeSpin. So I start with FreeSpin. I just go here to show. So this is the first identity that I sent in for my two identities. So as you see, there is a no steer block on ice. At the first glance it does not look too special. Maybe that's also the reason why it didn't come so far. You basically do 360s. It's very unusual that I did build such an identity because I'm not an ice player and I barely did 360s so far. I always try to avoid them in a couple of the days. But here I did. These 360s are however different. So what is the difference here? In that moment, when you are looking backwards, if you would accelerate in that moment, then you would of course heavily brake, you would heavily slow down. That means you make the ice slide, and once you are on this no steer block, you just press nothing on the gamepad. You press literally nothing. You just let the car do. Like steering doesn't matter because it's no steer. Braking, you of course, you could do, but it's not really good. And as I said, if you go forwards, if you accelerate on that no steer block or right after, then you would also just slow down as you drive backwards. That means you just take off your fingers from the gamepad and let your car roll. And that's also the reason why I called the map FreeSpin, because the car in that moment is kinda free and it spins. So that is the first identity. The second identity is AirWaves. Here I thought actually that this has a very good chance to go far. The main critic from the chat then was PF map. Yeah, maybe I should have done a turn into what happens then, so that you at least steer somewhere. You will see, however, that I on purpose in this replay did not go straight forward at the start. I steered a little bit left and right to make sure that this is not just only working if you perfectly come straight. The looping does make your car unstraight anyway. Like if you PF, you will not be straight anymore. So you see I go a bit to the left. And now comes this part. So this would be the finish of a map, of course. Here we go. So what happens here is that you have reactor boost down, which means that the car flies up until the reset. Then it falls down again into that reactor, down again, which makes it fly up again until the next reset. What you have to make sure is perfect control of the gas, the acceleration and the braking. When do you release, in order to have the lowest possible jump into the finish. You can really win a lot of time here if you nail the finish. If you just see one replay, it's sometimes hard to see. But this is basically the idea. This jump here has to be as low as possible. And you can affect that by quite a lot. But yeah, maybe it would have been better if I added a turn before going into the looping. so that people will not say, oh, this is ja only straightforward. Directly at the end of this quarter pipe you have to brake a lot to get basically in time upwards. And then before you go into the reset, you have to make sure that you already accelerate to jump forwards. Yeah, so you brake a lot to straight fly up, and then you accelerate here to have this angle. Then you let the car a bit fall down, so you don't accelerate immediately, and at the lowest possible moment you start accelerating again. I always wanted to do that. Since the game came out, I had the idea to use such a part here. But actually, a ring with reactor boost down didn't exist for very long. Only an update that is not too long ago made it possible that you have not just reactor boost up rings, but also reactor boost down rings. And since then it's possible to actually build that. You could do that further and further, adding some obstacles you have to go underneath or above. I have to say, however, it is not easy to get that consistent. Also, I mean, to build it in a consistent way. On this map it is consistent, but I block mixed quite a lot with these rings. I placed them in a specific way so that I get some consistency. The thing is, if the car's just a little bit angled with the nose down or up going into this last reactor boost, it will not fly up. It will fly somewhere else. If it's tilted a little bit, like a small barrel roll, then it will immediately zoom to the side. So you have to make sure that this doesn't happen. This makes it a bit difficult to build. Like if you would want to do 3 or 4 such up and downs, probably hard to make that consistent and workable.